right, we are recording. Everything looks fine. Everything looks dandy. Yeah, I think we're almost ready to go. Any questions, Ben?
Hey, Hal.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Actually, one more thing. Whenever you introduce me, can you introduce me as Joker?
Uh, no. Why would I do that?
Oh,
Hello and welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host Hal, and with me here today, Ben. Welcome back.
hey, hello, everyone. You can't see it right now, but just imagine I'm doing the little. I'm appearing from a curtain and doing like a little dance, like Joker on the Murray Franklin show.
Doing a little pirouette out of the curtain.
Yeah,
You're gonna kiss Dr. Sally sitting next to me? Yeah.
yeah. And you guys didn't hear it, but we actually did multiple takes of this, like they did for the actual movie.
Yeah.
I've done a different dance every time.
Ooh.
So
Yeah. We're very professional here, doing multiple takes of things.
no, yeah. Hi everyone. My name's BenEleven. I make movie content on my channel, BenEleven. Some people love it, some people hate it.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly just like a passion of mine to talk about movies and edit videos for hours on end.
I hear that. Yeah. You've been here before, Ben. I remember. Remember the Lighthouse and Skinnamarink episode? Classic
Oh
episode.
yeah. Thank you for having me on, despite the actual hate crime that I recommended to you in Skinnamarink.
I know, exactly. That was the worst. That's the worst movie we've ever talked about on the podcast. You know, it has never gotten worse than Skinnamarink.
Yeah, no, I can't deny that.
Yeah,
Monsters University might be a close second.
very true. Very true. Yeah. All right. Well, enough joking around. Joking. You see, I use that word on purpose because, Ben, a couple years back, when I was making normal videos instead of this awful podcast, you and me did a collaboration on the very first Joker film from 2019. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. No, of course. Yeah, it was a very strange experience because I remember just being like so like stoked about it to actually like be collaborating with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know, it just made me feel more like the YouTuber that I kind of dreamed of being whenever I was a kid, like actually doing a proper collaboration of writing a script with like another person
Mm-hmm.
and then creating videos. And you also did a collaboration on my channel, if
Yeah.
you remember.
Yeah, it was like a one for you, one for me. So we did the Joker video on mine, and then we did your Oscar video on yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Joker video, 10 times better.
No. Well, maybe. Hey, I thought we had some very interesting things to say about both. But anyway, but I just bring that up because, you know, recently the new Joker film came out, and well, I thought we could do a Joker episode. I always had the intentions of doing a Joker episode because I have the movie on Blu-ray, and I just knew that if I'm gonna do an episode on it, it has to be when the sequel comes out. And then I thought, hey, you know what would be fun is if I could bring Ben back, because I've wanted to bring you back on the podcast because, I mean, you have a way with words that I really appreciate, and I want you back on the podcast. So I thought, hey, this is perfect. We can, come full circle and have you on the Joker episode, one of a movie that we once talked about, and now we're talking about again, but 5 years later or 4 years later, because it was like 2020.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. That is very ostentatious of you to say I have a way with words.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what that means.
I don't either. Actually, I was hoping you were smart enough to know. Oh, like I said, professional podcast. Nah, but anyway, so we're here to talk about Joker. It's been 5 years. It's literally been 5 years since the movie because it was 2019. That's crazy that it's been 5 years since 2019.
Yeah. Can we just start out by talking about like the zeitgeist around this film whenever it first came out?
We have to. I mean, that's the thing with this movie. Like, I'm annoyed that it was such a big zeitgeist. Not that it was such a big cultural movement at the time, but how annoying the conversations around it were, because there were some really obnoxious conversations about it. But unfortunately, that is a part of the film's identity now, whether I like it or not. You know, like it was a huge thing at the time, and it's not that crazy to see why, you know?
Yeah, it is. It's just like, at the time, I definitely would say I was very shocked by how much attention it was getting. But like now looking back, yeah, I agree with you. It does make sense why, because like I think Joker, the reception of Joker definitely was, for one, it was a direct reflection of like superhero fatigue at the time.
Yeah. Definitely a response to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely like a reason for why so many people ended up seeing it. But then at the same time, it was also just like, I hate using this word lightly, but like a cultural phenomenon, pretty much, where like, you kind of had to see it to be a part of the conversation.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember like expecting to be kind of contrarian on it because I heard it. Because let's be honest, the very first impressions were that it was an amazing film. And so you had to see that, and I wanted to be contrarian on that, be like, come on guys, it's a comic book movie, it's not that, it's not going to be like that. But I do remember being shocked that it was good, because not that comic book movies can't be good, but they're so rarely ever of that level.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it was definitely a shocking movie to say the least in that regard. Unfortunately, then came the backlash. And so and not that it wasn't deserved, because here's the thing. Was this movie overhyped to hell and back? Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of superhero
whenever
movies.
I was telling people, sorry, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, a lot of superhero movies are overhyped to hell and back. Like, that's just that's always been kind of a thing. It's been a thing for a while now, so I get it. It's definitely a victim of the hype, I would say, because you know, it's being lauded as like this big thing. And again, at the time, people were just watching it for the first time. So a lot of first impressions are going to be that, like, highly positive, or even highly negative. They're going to be extreme one way or another.
Yeah, and like, it makes sense too that like, I feel like it was kind of a perfect concoction of just so many people seeing it who are just like regular superhero moviegoers, who are also watching a film that borrows a lot from classic like Scorsese films. Because like I remember when I watched it, I was like, wow, what a unique and interesting thing to kind of dissect the dichotomy, the parasocial relationship between like a TV personality and one of the fans who's like actually a nut job. But then I watched King of Comedy and I was like, wow, this is just explored 10 times better here.
See, I was waiting for us to bring up the whole Scorsese comparisons, because I was actually thinking about that recently when watching the movie again. Because I remember,
what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm honestly kind of thinking about that, because in a way, yes, on the surface, I can see why people are bringing up Scorsese as like an influence, but I
Mhm.
feel as though the conversation is more so of how it rips off his movies. But like,
Yeah.
I never got the sense that it was a rip off.
Yeah, me neither.
Especially like Taxi Driver. Like people are just like, oh, it's a Taxi Driver rip off. It's like, you clearly haven't watched Taxi Driver then. If anything,
Yeah.
yes, the King of Comedy comparisons make far more sense to me. And yeah, from what I remember, I feel as though King of Comedy does explore this better. Um,
Mhm.
and I feel like that's because Scorsese is a respected filmmaker and he is somebody who can explore these types of things in film and in cinema. Whereas
Yeah.
the director of this movie is Todd Phillips, the director of The Hangover. Now, not to insult Todd Phillips. I mean, I
Yeah,
do
of course.
because I don't really think he's that great of a director. I think
Yeah.
I think Joker was a happy little accident. Now, I think it worked out because I still like Joker. I still like this movie a whole lot.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm not saying I definitely don't want to necessarily say Joker is a ripoff of King of Comedy because I
Mhm.
think it does things differently enough that it feels more so homage. It feels more like an homage. And I
Yeah.
don't want to say this is a total ripoff or that just because Scorsese films do it better, they do. I don't think that necessarily takes away from what this movie achieves, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, sorry. I wasn't trying to say like the film is kind of ripping off of Scorsese films.
Right.
I just think it's interesting how so many people got introduced to those ideas
Hmm.
through Joker.
Oh yeah, no, and I wasn't accusing you of anything. But
No, it's fine. I'm quitting the cast.
oh, okay.
This is a hostile environment. I can't do this anymore. Surprised you didn't shoot me,
Yeah.
just like Murray.
Just like Joker and Mary. Um, no, but you know what? It was watching through this movie, it did get me to remember a time when this was huge. Because at the time in
Mhm.
2019 was a huge year for me in discovering films.
Really?
Well, yeah, because that was the first official year I was using Letterboxd. And I remember really taking that seriously that at that point, like kind of really starting to form what I want out of film and forming my tastes. Obviously, it's not when I discovered exactly who I am from a
Mhm.
cinematic standpoint because it was like the first time I was truly taking that aspect of myself kind of seriously. And
Yeah.
so I'm definitely a very different person now as I was in 2019. Um, and I can definitely see what influenced Joker, and I can definitely see that Joker was that introduction for then me to discover these better films. Because
Mhm.
I yeah, like you said, I think Joker is kind of an introduction for a lot of people because they are a little not to say ignorant, but there
Mhm.
is a sense that people are a little more stuck in their ways on average when it comes to cinema, and they're not willing to discover, whatever it is, whether it's they're not willing to discover foreign cinema or older cinema. There's like aspects of
Yeah.
filmmaking that get kind of the short end of the stick and people aren't willing to go out of their comfort zone to discover that kind of stuff. And I feel like it's
Mhm.
movies like Joker, whether people like it or not, that do kind of remind those people who are stuck in their ways watching nothing but superhero movies and Disney products that, this is a nice reminder to be like, hey, there's something more out there. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, because remember, I think that's also part of why Joker was so shocking is that it was an R-rated crime drama. It was a
Yeah.
superhero film, but it was an R-rated crime drama film underneath that, and it made $1 billion, and that was huge at the time. Now,
Yeah.
in a year, 2019 was a year that had like billion-dollar film after billion-dollar film. It got old real fast seeing movies make $1 billion.
Mhm.
Like I don't like people may not remember that because making $1 billion has been kind of rare recently thanks to COVID. Um,
Yeah.
like 2019, it was every other week some movie was making $1 billion. It got old. Like
Yeah.
A movie making that obscene amount of money we will never see in our lifetimes got old. Like, I don't think people remember that, but that was insane at the time.
That is true, actually. Yeah, Lion King 2019.
Yeah, Aladdin,
Endgame,
Captain
yeah,
Marvel.
Aladdin. Oh, I forgot Aladdin. Oh,
I know, yeah, exactly. I know none of
Yuck.
these movies are that memorable. I mean, some of them are. Like
Yeah.
people remember Endgame and Far From Home, but like, yeah, and
Yeah.
people remember Lion King for the wrong reasons. But Joker made $1 billion, and that was kind of one of the only movies from that year where I was like, you know what, that deserves that, because it was different. It really was a different film from something like Captain Marvel or even Far From Home. I like Far From Home,
Yeah.
but that was just another MCU film at the time.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Far From Home's like a good version of an MCU film,
exactly.
but it's still an MCU
it's
film.
Still that, yeah, it's still that superhero, like we said, superhero fatigue. Like, just it's the same thing that we've been expecting from these franchises. Whereas Joker's a little different.
Yeah.
And so I guess to go into a little of that, the reason I really like how different it is because, well, like we said, it's an R-rated crime drama. Like, it's a character study about the titular Joker, Arthur Fleck, played by Joaquin Phoenix. Because it's interesting, because really thinking about it, this is not your typical Joker. Like, when we think Joker, when we think the classic Joker, the Batman villain, you think the Heath Ledger, you think Cesar Romero or Jack Nicholson, like someone in like a purple suit, white makeup, green hair, stuff like that. You know, the classic Mark Hamill portrayal of Joker. That is not this Joker.
Very eccentric.
Yeah, very eccentric, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's my point. That is not this Joker. Like, this is, for all intents and purposes, kind of an original character, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is a interesting like place to take the character. Like, I'm glad that they didn't try to mimic like past iterations of the character. I'm glad Joaquin Phoenix didn't come out and like, I don't know, put his hand on his mouth and be like, "Why are you so serious?" and all that song and dance.
Yeah. Or he goes up to like, or when like he sees Gary walk away, he's just like, "Gary, you are my number one guy." Yeah, no, that would have been obnoxious. Yeah. So my understanding, and rewatching the film, I've come to an understanding of this film where I kind of see it as if it's as if the Joker himself is trying to make his own biopic, you know? This sympathetic version of this crazy character just being like, "Oh, it's not me, it's society, man."
Society, yeah.
Yeah. And I really find that's
a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, I find that fascinating because I feel like that's the only way you can really see how that relates back to DC. Because you have characters like Thomas Wayne show up and Bruce and Alfred, but the movie's not interested in making this a Joker origin story in the sense that this Joker is someday going to fight Batman. Like, this Joker,
right.
I mean, with the second movie, this Joker's definitely not going to fight Batman, but you know, that we'll get to that when we get to that.
I can't wait.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, it's funny you say that, because I remember there being like a distinct amount of people who were looking at this film as something that was going to start a franchise. Like, they were looking at it as if like, oh man, I wonder who they're going to cast as Batman in the next movie to fight this new Joker that we just saw.
Yeah.
Like, that sort of franchise mentality, I think, was still there, even though, like, I agree with you. I don't think that was the intention of the film.
No, definitely not.
And I like that.
Yeah, I never got that feeling. In fact, when the first movie ended, I was like, wow, that's great. Like, this is great. We have a singular film that isn't spawning a franchise. Obviously, we got a sequel years later, but I felt as though the sequel was more so just in response to the fact that it made $1 billion.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than the filmmakers had an idea. Grab. I feel as though you end the movie where it ends. Like, it is just a perfect film all on its own. Like, you don't need anything more. And it never felt as though they were establishing a franchise with that. And I guess that, goes to show how the sequel turned out. Again, we'll get to it.
Yeah, we're just itching to
I know, but
pile drive that thing right
but
now.
I think it is good that we're talking about the first film, because it had been 4 years since I had last seen this movie.
Oh yeah.
And I feel as though the shift in people's perception of this film has shifted a lot. I guess not really, because again, looking back through like reviews, especially the top reviews, which by the way, this movie on Letterboxd is one of the funniest just oxymorons I've ever seen, because the movie is
really
well. So what I'm saying is, like, the movie itself has like a 3.8 average on Letterboxd, and it has a lot of high ratings. It has a lot. I think like the highest it has is like a 4-star rating. It has like a 3.8, and then you go right to the top reviews, and there's not a single 5-star or 4-star review. It's all just like 1-star, half-star, 4-star, half-star.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never really looked at this.
I know. Well, never go into the top reviews of any Letterboxd movie. It's always the cringiest shit, because we love promoting cringe on Letterboxd, I guess. No, but
yeah, I love the one sentence, like one-off joke that I say to my friend after the movie's over in the theater.
Yeah,
getting 30 million likes on
Look,
Letterboxd.
Occasionally they can be funny, but then you just read.
That's true.
But then you just read some, I don't know, some Harley Quinn PFP's review of some classic movie with like 2 stars, and it's just a Vine reference, and you're like, this doesn't even apply to the movie. What is this? Like, is this a joke? Is this supposed to be funny? That never have I felt older than just looking at top reviews sometimes. Look, sometimes there's some really good, insightful stuff, but it's just really fascinating reading the fact that this has a high average on Letterboxd, and then you go to the top reviews, and it takes you a while before you start seeing the legitimately like positive reviews for this film. Like, I like the highest 5-star, like the most popular 5-star review is just "We live in a society." So you're like, okay, that's clearly a joke. This person clearly doesn't care about this movie. But it's just interesting because but I think rewatching it now 4 years later was helpful to be like, okay, was I just bought into the hype at the time, or is this actually as good as I remember? And while I did lower my score, it does reflect more of how I feel about it now. I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised that I still like this movie.
Well, I mean, yeah, considering everything we just talked about with how it was it had so much context around seeing it for the first time.
Yeah.
The fact that didn't really affect like our perception, because I agree with you. I'm right there with you with basically just being in the exact same position of when I first saw it. Like same gripes, same like things I loved about it, same just everything. Like I really didn't shift that much on it. It's so weird. I think it shows like how it's a very succinct movie. I feel like it's a very efficient kind of film that I think holds up for sure. So I think that's kind of one of the main reasons why it is kind of still standing on its own 2 legs after all this time.
Yeah, because it's interesting because I never felt talked down to by it. Like, it could get a little preachy, quote unquote, but I was never annoyed by that preachiness, because I think because rewatching it, I realized, okay, I remembered, oh right, this is a comic book movie, and and not only just a comic book movie about a villain, so like even though Arthur Fleck is clearly this mentally ill character, it's still a villain at the end of the day. So I'm not really taking this movie's portrayal of mental illness that seriously, or its ideas of riots and stuff like that, you know, like being
like the social issues.
yeah, the social issues,
that
bringing social issues into it. It never felt preachy, or at least I was
Yeah.
never annoyed by its preachiness. You know, I was never annoyed that
Yeah.
it was bringing these aspects up because, and maybe that's because we've been on the internet for years now, and it's like, oh, you know, you could go on Twitter and see some 14-year-old saying, "I want to, you know, kill everybody," and everyone just be like, "Yeah, whatever."
Yeah.
Crazy kids, am I right? It's like it doesn't phase you anymore, you know, seeing these
Uh-huh.
people in clown makeup rioting and you know, calling for justice in the most extreme ways possible. It's like, okay, yeah, like
Yeah.
this is not at all shocking. This is pretty par for the course.
Yeah. And that's like, it was so weird whenever it came out.
Mhm.
Whenever like I would talk to people, normies,
Normies.
uh people who aren't chronically online and are actually happy and have like the slightest amount of serotonin
Yeah.
reaching their brain.
Yeah.
Um I would talk to them about it, and they would be like, "Oh wow, you're gonna go see Joker? Oh, that sounds really. That movie's really disturbing. I don't know if I can go see that. I've heard it's like really dark." And it's like, what?
I mean, the fact that it was even still a hit though, when normal people were going to see it, even
Oh
though
yeah.
it was dark. Like I remember being in the theater, and the theater I went to go see it was like a local, like one of those restaurant theaters where they have tables and
Hmm.
you can get like actual food and not just popcorn. You can, like, a waitress comes over and serves you food in the middle of the
Oh, that's
movie.
sick.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I think I think the local location, like the one that was closest to me for years, closed down, but I think there is another location somewhere. Anyway, point
Mhm.
is, I remember being in the theater and watching like the climax, and there was like a mother
Mhm.
and a son at the table next to us, and when, you know, you get what you fucking deserve happened and he blows the
Yeah.
brains out, like the mother went, oh, like she was really shocked, and I was just like, well, you brought your 12-year-old into an R-rated film, what did you expect? The
Oh,
kid loved it. He was just like, this is awesome.
really?
Yeah, he was just like, this is great. I was just like, hell yeah, brother.
Yeah.
um
That's funny.
Yeah,
Wow.
I just always think about that moment. Because,
Hmm.
well, I mean, do we want to get into? No, we don't want to get into the climax just yet. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up.
That's funny. So it's like Deadpool with like all the people just bringing their kids to it, thinking
Yeah,
it's just like another superhero
but here's the
movie.
thing. Here's my thing though, because with Deadpool, that feels practically PG-13, but just,
Yeah.
you know, a little more extreme. But you know, kids at 13 years old are absolutely talking the way that Deadpool is talking. Like,
Oh
it's
yeah.
ridiculous. You are a naive motherfucker if you don't think otherwise. Not you specifically. You the
Oh
audience.
man, that's so hurtful. Why would you say that?
um but that's my thing, is that at least with this movie, it's a rated R comic book film, but it definitely earns its R rating because it was never excessive with its darker
Yeah.
elements. Like it wasn't saying fuck every other 5 words, or the blood wasn't just uh PG-13, but then you cover it up with like CGI blood squibs, and all of a sudden it's rated R. Like it genuinely felt
Yeah.
like when he's like killing Randall, especially, that felt more realistic,
Yeah.
which I was appreciative of. But that's the thing, is like,
Randall's the guy in his apartment, right?
yeah, that was the guy in
Okay.
in the apartment, and then when he let Gary go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's the thing, is like that, like this movie never felt like a PG-13 film that they just put like blood squibs over and all of a sudden it's rated R. You know, it felt
Mhm.
like they've made it with the intention of it being rated R. Um,
Yeah.
and so that, again, going into, like, that applies to the fact that I never feel cheated when watching this film. I don't know. I'm just not, I don't feel like I'm being ripped off. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
getting a genuine character study, which is wild because this is a film that went through committees, because it's a Warner Brothers DC film from 2019. You know, they were like picking through this with a fine-tooth comb because it's DC in 2019. Like
they gave Todd Phillips a weird amount of like creative liberty.
Yeah, I think
like
that's
almost comparable to like Ryan Johnson.
Yeah,
for The Last Jedi.
Yeah, that's what makes it all the more fascinating to me, that a movie like this was able to get through. Because there is a sense of style, whether you want to argue it's a Scorsese ripoff or it's a little too dark, a little too nihilistic. I don't know. It's something that I was not expecting, and I feel like stands out more so than other superhero films from that time. And even since then, I don't think we've gotten a superhero film that's like Joker since then.
Honestly, no.
Yeah, no, I really can't think of any. I
think Logan might be the closest thing.
Yeah, but
like that even came before it.
Yeah, Logan came first though. Is the thing. Yeah, no, I think because even though it was such a huge hit, COVID immediately happened. And then after COVID, No Way Home became a huge hit, and I guess the whole multiverse thing was more easier to do. So they were like, let's just make multiverse movies, and that's what the superhero trend
then we got
became.
The Flash.
And then we got The Flash. Everybody's favorite DC film. It's weird that even though Joker was such a huge hit, I feel as though DC didn't capitalize on it as often as you know how like Logan was such a huge hit for Marvel, and then every Deadpool movie after was just sucking the dick of Logan. Like Deadpool 2 and Deadpool 3 especially are just like, Logan, isn't it like Deadpool's just turning to the audience every once in a while just being like, isn't Logan such a great film? And I'm just like, can you shut the fuck up, please? Like, this is so annoying.
Yeah, that's
like there was never a DC movie where they're just like, oh yeah, Joker, wasn't that a great film? It's like they I don't know, I never
for how often they hop on trends.
They
really didn't hop on that trend.
No, and they had a huge hit with Joker, and they just didn't make a movie like it again until they made the sequel, and we all know how that turned out. But there was never like a Riddler movie like Joker, or there was never like a Catwoman movie like Joker. Like, I don't know, just I guess
there is the Batman.
Yeah, but that wasn't really because of Joker though, because again, The Dark Knight was already like a gritty Batman,
that's true,
more realistic Batman. So if anything, Joker was inspired by The Dark Knight. And then the Batman, I would say, was inspired by The Dark Knight, but also just because I guess Matt Reeves wanted to make a Batman, but with Robert Pattinson. Yeah, I guess in the grand scheme of things, this is a good thing because that makes Joker all the more unique.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just,
I will say
it's just weird.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. I was just saying it's weird.
Right. Yeah, I will. It is very strange, the whole situation, just like Warner Bros. Not capitalizing on it anymore afterwards, because I would have loved some more movies like that. But I will say, on your point of Joker not really feeling like a cheated R-rated movie, I think the thing that like mainly contributes to that is that because there's a lot of R-rated movies, like a lot of R-rated comedies that basically only earn the R rating just because there's like a lot of swearing, and there's like they talk about sex a lot, and just all the like R-rated isms that you would usually have. But then they have the story that feels like it was written by a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
And not to say that like there aren't parts of Joker that kind of feel like they're written by a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the story and its like themes and its overarching just atmosphere, I think it really does feel like a movie that was intended for like an older audience. Like it doesn't feel like it was made for 13-year-olds. It feels like it was made for people with functioning brains.
Yeah. And if 13-year-olds do watch it, I can definitely see them watching this and being like, "Oh, this is the greatest movie ever made." Because it's one of those where it's still a recognizable IP, but it's mature enough that you feel smart watching it. I feel like that makes it sound bad, but it's not. I feel like it does do these things well. I don't really have a problem with whatever it does. And so again, like I said, it is kind of a gateway into a more grander world of cinema. Like, growing up as teenagers, we were interested in like Marvel and DC. We were interested in superhero films because, well, we loved superheroes growing up. So of course, when we see these PG-13 action superhero movies growing up, it's like, yeah, we love these kinds of things. But as we get older, we tend to realize, hey, some of these PG-13 action schlocky movies are not very good. And there's other movies we could be watching. But that's
Morbius.
Like Morbius, exactly. So it's nice that we get something that is a nice reminder that, hey, there is something more. And I feel like for a lot of people that movie Joker is that gateway. And I think it should be recognized as that, a gateway to a lot more films out there. Again, if you want to argue it's ripping that off, I guess in some ways it could be, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because I don't feel as though this movie doesn't have merits to stand on. I think it does have a very interesting centralized character with that of Arthur Fleck, somebody who is ultimately just this horrible, horrible human being. Because, controversial take, I think murder is bad, guys.
What?
So when he murders 6 people, that's a bad thing.
Wow. Jeez. How you can't upload this.
I know.
You can't put this to the world.
I know. YouTube's not ready for my spicy hot takes.
We're gonna get demonetized.
We were monetized to begin with. But you get my point. Like, I'm not. Yeah. You know what? Looking back, I'm not shocked that a character like this is a main character. The movies and shows I've seen since watching Joker, you can have a main character you can disagree with, either politically or ideologically, and still get an interesting story. That is exceptionally common in cinema. Are you kidding me? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like, especially within the past couple of years, there's been this idea that, main characters can't be problematic. It's like, no. And I'm not saying that's what everybody believes. That's, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably like a very vocal minority of idiots online, because, well, controversial take, there are idiots online. I don't know if you've noticed.
Gosh, how? Stop. On a rampage.
There's people online who say stupid things from time to time. But you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. It is very cool having a movie where the main character actually is like a straight up villain.
Yeah.
Because I'm so sick and tired of movies like Venom, where they like tried to write him as like an anti-hero, but then he just ends up being a superhero.
Yeah, he just
through and through.
Yeah, he just like kills people, and it's like, okay, first of all, where did this whole like heroes don't kill thing come from originally? Because I remember
Ever seen Daredevil?
I guess like characters like Batman and Daredevil, I guess, have these codes, and that's fine. Yeah, heroes have codes in certain movies. That's totally fine. But like, yeah, I was 4 years old when I watched A New Hope and saw Luke Skywalker, one of the most celebrated cinematic heroes of all time, blow up a Death Star with 100,000 people on there. It's like, come on, guys! Like,
I keep forgetting about that.
Yeah, he killed a lot of people, Luke Skywalker. But we still view him as one of the greatest cinematic heroes of all time, and for good reason, because Luke Skywalker is a hero at the end of the day. Yeah. That is absolutely true. but just this idea that, oh, heroes don't kill. It's like, all right, certain heroes, sure, I can agree to that. But the idea that heroes absolutely should not kill, I don't know. Have you seen absolutely zero movies? Like, a lot of heroes kill people. Like, that's just bad people, sure, but people nonetheless, you know? Like, it doesn't, I don't know, just this whole thing of like this recent phenomenon of like, oh, superheroes don't actually kill people. So then when you have like, when you have movies like Venom and Black Adam where they're just like, oh, these are much darker heroes because they kill people. It's like, this is not new. Like, 4 years old, I saw Luke Skywalker blow up like 100,000 people. Like, this is not new.
It's not new, and they don't even do it. Like, Venom's just like,
oh yeah,
I can only eat bad people.
Yeah, they have to spell it out. This fucking PG-13 film has to be like, I only eat and kill bad people. Fucking Funko Pop obsessing nerds in the theater are just like, well, now I feel better.
Wow, a main character I can relate to.
Yeah,
I don't kill people.
I also don't kill people, Venom. Thank you. It's like, it's ridiculous. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, we actually get a villain as a main character, because even as a kid, I've always wanted to see that. I talk about this in my Letterboxd review, but that is something I've always wanted to see. Like, even as just an experiment or whatever, like, not like having a movie where a villain remains a villain. This isn't like because I remember being a kid and being kind of annoyed when Despicable Me and Megamind did that, where they're just like, hey kids, want to see a movie where a villain is the main character? And it's like, yeah, I do. And then you watch the movie and it's like, oh, this is not a villain. This is a hero character who is just kind of bad at the beginning. Now,
he popped a little kid's balloon.
Yeah. Again, those movies are still good for vastly different reasons. But I remember being annoyed as a kid because I'm like, all right, I feel cheated. Like, you didn't make a villain the main character. You just made him a hero later on. So he's not a villain. But I don't know. Point is, I feel as though Joker is the closest we've ever gotten to that, where it's a main character remains a villain. Now, you can argue because the movie sympathizes with him, but at the end of the day, like I said, I feel as though this was a movie made by the Joker, where he's trying to make himself seem sympathetic, because sympathy can be weaponized, you know?
Yeah. What do you think of that whole angle that the movie takes? Because I would probably say, like, I feel like I haven't even really talked about the movie all that much, but the actual like atmosphere and presentation of the movie is like definitely the best part, along with Joaquin Phoenix's amazing performance. Like, he really brings the character to life. Does really well to kind of boost that sympathy that you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the thing, because like I said, like it's a movie about this guy who is clearly mentally ill and just falling from grace. And it's just wild seeing people being like, yeah, this movie glorifies mentally ill people as being dangerous and they're going to go out and kill people. It's like, well, no, first of all, it's a movie, you know.
Is that what people like have an issue with?
I feel like I
always thought it was like the incel mentality.
That too.
That like people had an issue
with.
Like
that's the other thing too, is just people are just like, I don't know. I feel like I've seen people just kind of complain about it glorifying stuff like that. It's just like, okay, it's a movie, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it was glorifying this kind of stuff, who cares? You know, like, because at the end of the day, like I said, like, you know, I've watched many things since Joker that have very awful people as main characters. One of my favorite shows of all time now is The Sopranos, a show about Tony Soprano running the mafia. Kind of a jerk, if I'm going to be honest, but you know,
another hot take,
exactly. But I'm glad, because I never felt as though that show glorified Tony Soprano's actions. It was never obvious that it was anti what he was doing. It was a very smart show that showed this deranged human being and just seeing the lengths he would go to do whatever he wanted. And so I really don't want to say that this movie glorifies Joker's actions being as being necessarily for him, because again, he still gets arrested, he still is locked away. So I feel like the movie is smart enough to know that what he's doing is bad, and not necessarily glorifying, because again, I feel as though I feel as though the movie is smart in showing that he is crazy and that we can't really trust him either, because that's the thing. I don't trust this Joker, and I didn't need the movie to tell me that to figure that out. I mean, it does, because it does show that he has moments where he was imagining things like his imaginary girlfriend. But even then, I'm not annoyed, because I still feel as though the movie shows him being this crazy asshole character. And I'm just not as annoyed or off-put by these characters' actions, or the fact that this movie is showing him do this stuff, and that it's not necessarily going out of its way to be like, hey, by the way, this is bad, you know?
I've always been under the impression that like movies shouldn't be made for people who misinterpret them. Because like I definitely could see someone potentially like watching this movie and completely missing the point of it.
But people have done that with movies like Taxi Driver and Fight Club and American Psycho.
Oh yeah, Fight Club is
But like, dude, but we still, recognize those films as satires or as character analyses of certain characters. And so we're not rushing to be like, oh, this movie is problematic, we shouldn't be trusting it. It's like, no, we're adults, we know. I guess that maybe has to do with the fact that this is a comic book movie, and a comic book audience is eating it up. And comic books, as smart as they can be, are not often recognized as high literature. You can make great comic books. You can make great comic book movies that are, seen as some of the greatest movies ever made. The Dark Knight, for example, like that movie is incredible. It's an incredible film. Yeah, that and Logan. But what I'm trying to get at is I don't really think this movie is going, because it is a comic book movie, it has a certain audience going for it, and that certain audience is very narrow-minded when it comes to the types of films they watch. Which is probably why it was such a big hit, because I mean, it was a comic book movie, so it was going to be a hit no matter what. But the fact that it's a little more elevated than your typical comic book movie, and so people were just like, oh, I've gotten something different than what I was expecting, therefore this is something special, Yeah,
really, that is true, that everything kind of just came together for this movie to be as well received and as popular as it was.
Which is why I'm not of the opinion that I think this is overrated, or I mean, I think to an extent it is overrated, but I don't think that necessarily makes it bad. Like, I don't want to necessarily claim this is bad. I don't want it to, and I also don't want it to seem like I like this movie because I agree with the Joker, or that I have these same ideals as him. It's like, no, I am smart enough to know that this is a deranged villain character, but I still like the movie, even though I don't agree with the politics of this character,
Yeah, and like, one thing that did annoy me a little bit about the conversation around the film was just how many people were kind of not really talking about the filmmaking of it. Because
even if they were mostly saying like, oh, it's a Scorsese ripoff. It's like, no, it's more than that, but go off, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. No, like, what's his face? Oh my gosh, Robert De Niro. Jeez, I can't believe I forgot his name for a second. He's casted as like the Murray Franklin type character that's literally kind of a ripoff quote unquote, of the King of Comedy character. So like I think that decision kind of shows that like, hey, Todd Phillips is paying homage to this sort of thing,
Oh, yeah.
as well as adding something new to it.
Yeah, because again, I don't think Robert De Niro is literally playing Jerry Lewis's character from King of Comedy. It's clearly a different character. It's clearly a different interpretation of this kind of character. Because he's not even the main focus. Like throughout the movie, Joker's kind of pursuing Thomas Wayne before he pursues Murray. And obviously doesn't really go anywhere, but
yeah. No, but it does go somewhere.
That's true.
Joker is the cause for the Waynes dying.
Yeah. See,
wasn't that such a cool reveal?
See, that also, like, at first that did bother me because, like, the implementation of Bruce and Thomas and Alfred, at first when I watched the movie, did annoy me because it's just like, oh, we have to have this. But I'm not that bothered by it anymore because...
Interesting.
Well, because I think, truly thinking about it, it is a comic book film, and comic books are notoriously showing off different versions of characters. That's kind of one of the reasons why comic books became kind of a bit much to keep up with, because there were so many interpretations of these characters that it was hard to keep up with what version is the version. But I think that is also kind of a novelty of the comic book, or of the comic world, where you have all these different versions of these same characters in these different adventures, these different interpretations of these characters. Like it's both really, really excessive, but kind of cool at the same time. And that's what I feel about this movie. It's just another interpretation. I don't see it as the be all end all version of the events of Batman, where it's like, oh, Joker was the cause of Thomas Wayne being murdered. Because again, like we said, I don't think this Joker is going to fight Batman. So like,
gosh, that would be so funny if that happened.
Yeah, like 60-year-old Joaquin Phoenix fighting Robert Pattinson or something like that. Yeah, it's no, it's stupid. Like so that's the thing. That's not what this movie's about. But I get it, because you still want to have these characters show up, because it's like, well, why are we watching a Joker film if Batman's not going to show up? But again, I don't think the implementation is that annoying. I feel as though, again, it is Joker. Like I said, I view this movie as if Joker's making this biopic about himself. Like, you know, having this idea of himself as being this sympathetic, mentally ill guy, you know, messing around with young Bruce Wayne, and ultimately being the reason for why Bruce Wayne's parents die.
There was a little Spanish flea. Yeah, my internet just randomly cuts out.
No, that's
sometimes.
Did you? But you're still recording though.
Yeah, I'm still recording.
Okay, that's good at least.
Yeah, so you can have me screaming in anguish into the void.
Sure. I pretty much made my point. So if you want to move on to something else when discussing this film, I mean, what else is there to talk about with this film? I know we've been talking a lot about the stuff around the film, which is really annoying, but at the same time, that is kind of like the biggest thing about it, is the controversy surrounding the film, or the aspects around the film, rather than the content. The content is still
kind of
very
like
good.
Black Panther, and how like the conversation around the film is like much larger than the actual film itself.
Than the actual film itself, yeah. But again, all I want to say is that I don't want it to seem as though Joker is all of a sudden like not worth watching. I think it is an interesting film to see, to like really it is still a good character analysis of Arthur. Like, I find Arthur a fascinating character. I don't see him as my definitive Joker, because again, when I think of Joker, I want him to be that Batman villain, and that is not this Joker. This is just some, like I said, for all intents and purposes, an original character, just, you know, with the DC paint all over it.
Yeah, it is definitely, I do get a little annoyed sometimes, if I said that there weren't some things that people say about it that I didn't kind of or agree with. Like the film is definitely not very subtle in points.
Yeah.
There's some like incredibly corny moments throughout. Like the opening scene, for example.
The opening scene is definitely the worst part to me, where it's just like you see him getting beat up by a bunch of kids. It's like, come on, dude. Like, really? Like, I remember being in the theater watching the movie for the first time and being like, oh God, please. But then the movie did have me after that. Once the movie started to get going, I was like, okay, now I'm on board. But yeah, once
they started introducing things like the mental health institution shutting down and like his very tumultuous kind of relationship with his mother, like that sort of stuff is much more effective in building sympathy, I would say. But just the idea of having these people in Gotham that are just complete caricatures just come up and do things like beat them up for no reason just because they're hooligan kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that sort of thing really is kind of annoying because it's like it's so transparent what they're doing. They're trying so hard to get you to feel bad for him.
Exactly. And I think again that goes into the whole fact of, okay, this is Joker trying to make himself as sympathetic as possible.
That is such a funny angle. I'm just imagining like him in the director chair, just like
I can just imagine
shouting in one of the megaphones.
Yeah, the Mark Hamill Joker just in like big director's pants and like the beret and just being like, okay, next scene. Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. But that's the thing is like that's why, even though whether or not this movie is actually glorifying Arthur's actions, I'm not that annoyed by that because I know it's a movie. And I know I'm smart enough to know that I don't need to be 100% behind this main character by the end. Again, it's a villain character. Like, that I've already gone over that, so I don't need to go into it more. But yeah, I agree. It is a little on the nose. It is a little preachy. Again, I think that is a product of, okay, this is a Warner Brothers like superhero film, so you're gonna have people being like, oh, we need to put this in, we need to put this in, so you're gonna have a little more fingers in the pie than if this was like more of an indie film. So, and I am somebody who champions subtlety more so than not, because when a movie is more subtle, I feel like it's prone to more conversations and more perspectives and more ideas for it. Whereas when the movie's literally telling you, then it's not really fun for discussion. But again, I don't mind it here because, again, it is that DC Warner Brothers film. I'm not expecting indie level writing here. For what it is as a Hollywood blockbuster, I think it still gets this stuff across just fine.
Yeah, that is true. It is. The writing might be choppy in some moments, and I definitely don't want to like discredit that. Like, yeah, there are some issues that I have with it.
Oh yeah,
but at the same time, you're right. It is much more refined and like much more interesting than the vast majority of writing in superhero movies. Because like that's always the thing that I think people mostly take issue with superhero movies is kind of like the writing and just how that comes across as really bland.
Yeah.
Because usually they have a big budget. They're able to do things like have a lot of sets, make it feel adventurous, make the presentation at least somewhat okay most of the time.
Which is ironic because we're dealing with superheroes. We're dealing with fantasy characters. So you'd think the writing should be limitless. The potential for creativity should be limitless. And we get the same thing over and over and over again. And so, yeah, it is nice when we get something vastly different than what we've been getting. And that's the thing.
I think Infinity War like came closest to that.
Sure.
Like that scene with like fighting Thanos on the moon.
Yeah.
Or on that like alien planet. That was actually like, wow, they're taking full advantage of this fantastical setting that they're in.
And even the Spider-Verse movies, like at least from a visual standpoint, are just infinitely creative. Yeah. But but like you had said, I agree with you in that you should be able to point out that this movie has issues because I don't want to say anybody who's ever called this movie bad is wrong because that is simply just not true. That is equally as reactionary as saying it's good or bad. Like that is equally as reactionary, and I don't want to do that. I just find it hilarious that, again, to go back to the fact that it has a 3.8 average on Letterboxd, and then the top reviews are nothing but half stars and 1 stars. And so I feel as though, and this was a problem when the movie came out, is that, again, the reactions were very extreme one way or the other. You either had people who loved the hell out of it or hated the hell out of it. And it's like, that's why I'm glad we watched it again. 4 or 5 years later, I feel as though the hype for it has died down significantly, and we can talk about it as an actual film. And as an actual film, it's good. Perfect? No. The worst thing ever? Absolutely not.
Yeah. Thank goodness Too Many Movies is around.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think you were right, though, that we didn't have that much to say. I mean, we did. But I feel as though what we've been saying is we pretty much established what we got, is that it is a good film, a little choppy at times, but ultimately it's inoffensive to me. I know that's weird to say because, again, you have these scenes of riots and social issues being brought up and mental illness issues coming up, but it's just like, I really just see this as
inoffensive is a good word.
Yeah, it's really inoffensive. I really can't imagine watching this movie and just be like, oh, which goes into the fact that, like, do you remember when this movie was coming out and the media was just painting it as like this like white supremacist incel movie where they're just like, don't go see Joker. There's going to be shootings every weekend. It's like, are you insane? Like, that was.
I genuinely believe that they were like almost trying to make it happen.
Oh,
which is so. I hate that so much.
I know that sounds very conspiracy theorist, but honestly, I'm with you because considering how the media is, just seeing the shit they do over especially the past decade or so, it's like I would not be
to
surprised.
Put on the tinfoil makeup on or anything like that. But
I know. Yeah, I won't say anything, but I completely get where you're coming from because which again, I always bring this up. Everybody was going crazy being like, oh, Joker, there's going to be violence because of this movie. And then nothing happened. And then Frozen 2 came out and some dude got stabbed at a screening for Frozen 2.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I
didn't know that.
Yeah, there was like, it wasn't a huge story, but again, it happened. Some dude got stabbed in Frozen 2. Completely.
Oh my gosh.
Unrelated to the movie, of course, because it's Frozen fucking 2. But people were, the whole the media for the whole month of October is just like, oh, Joker's this dangerous movie, and then you have this children's movie where a dude gets stabbed. It's like, guess what? The movie's not going to cause violence. That is absurd to believe. It's absurd.
It also has a pretty controversial character. The way that they're trying to like sympathize a monarch is just kind of, it's a little weird how they do that, don't you think?
Yeah, I guess so. But anyway, it's just, I feel like we're past that. The movie is out. It's on Blu-ray. It's not in theaters anymore. Like, again, it's been years since it first came out, and I'm glad we were able to talk about it as like for what it actually is, just a good movie. Like what one thing I want to mention with the climax is I still find the climax so tense and perfectly paced. When he's finally on the Murray Franklin show, when he's like the build up to him shooting Murray, the music, the acting in that scene, it's phenomenal. It's fantastic. Like, I really am still blown away by that sequence. I really want to like praise the hell out of that scene because it is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it was amazing in the theater. It was amazing on my 4th time watching this film.
Yeah, one, I honestly, watching it again, that was my favorite part.
Mhm.
Was just the Murray Franklin show
Oh,
scene.
it's easily the highlight of the film.
Yeah, one thing I didn't even really like pick up on was just how good Robert De Niro's performance is
Yeah.
in that scene.
Yeah.
Like the way he slowly shifts from being like the happy-go-lucky like talk show host to like genuinely being like, oh my gosh, this guy's actually a freaking lunatic.
Yeah, but still,
I'm actually gonna like talk to him about it.
but still having a bit of that talk show ego where he's just like, oh, I can make
Yeah.
content out of this. So that's why he
Yeah, that's
keeps
true.
that's why he keeps talking to Joker. You know, like people are just like, oh, why didn't he just stop the recording? It's like, are you kidding? Like, he is this television personality. The fact that he's getting this crazy guy admitting to murders on live television would make
Yeah.
huge ratings. It's like, of course he's going to keep him on, making him talk as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's a good reason for why they actually like called him on the show.
Mhm.
Because when I first watched it, I thought that was kind of weird how they did that.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel like very natural.
Yeah.
That they would just like reach out to this random guy they showed a clip of. But and now that I'm thinking about it, like talk show hosts would probably do more for less.
We have like decades upon decades of reality television of,
yeah,
you know,
Talk to a Girl. That's basically just Joker.
That is the most I mean, that's the most recent example of, you know, taking advantage and cashing in on the hype of this normal person, this person who for all intents and purposes should not be famous, but they are. But like we've had decades of reality television of normal fucking people trying to get their 15 minutes of fame, and television personalities trying to exploit that for the sake of capital and bank. And it's just like, yeah, of course they're gonna have this murderer admitting to murders on live television. Like, that is huge ratings for him. And again, it bites him in the ass or shoots him in the face rather. Yeah, it's, again, I just love the music, how it just like tensely builds up to him when he's like telling the joke. It's just fantastic. I really just can't praise it enough. It is.
Yeah.
And it's just them just sitting down at a talk show host studio. Like, there's no grand epic superhero battle with CGI. Like, that was the most intense climax in a superhero film in 2019, and it came out the same year as fucking Endgame.
Yeah. It's like not to jump the shark either on this, but like watching the climax of the second movie just made me appreciate the first one so much more.
I mean, watching the whole second movie made me appreciate the first movie more. But yes, I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, because like in the second movie, Joaquin Phoenix does a very similar kind of thing where he's kind of the center of attention and he's sort of doing this like really over the top kind of performance. But like in the first movie, he's so much more reserved.
Yeah.
In the way that he's talking. Like, you can tell he's kind of losing it. You can tell there's cracks beneath the personality that he's kind of putting forward.
Yeah.
The way he says things like, how about another joke, Murray? And he like moves his head up and down while he's doing it.
Yeah.
And he's like just so filled to the brim with anticipation, and he's like so excited about the thing he's about to do.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, like naturally happening as opposed to being like forcibly inserted into the character in the second one.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting to see because
like,
again, it made me appreciate it much more.
Because like when he's like saying the joke, like, what do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society, and he just keeps ramping up, and then the line where he says like, I'll tell you what you get, he like has a voice crack at that moment, like as if he is nervous and just like kind of stumbling over his words, but still getting his point across. And it never felt forced to make it seem like cool. It seemed more natural. Yeah.
Such a great scene.
It is so good. I will go to bat for this movie. I think there's some top-notch stuff in there, and this climax especially. So
Take that, Letterbox.
Hey, I mean, look, people can have their opinions. I really want to emphasize that. If you out there think...
No, people can't have their opinions. That's not allowed.
That's not what we do here on Too Many Movies. No, but seriously, if you are somebody out there who genuinely hates this film, I guess I can't stop you. And if you're somebody out there who genuinely loves this film and considers it a 10 out of 10, I guess that's cool, but also, man, you need to watch more stuff. I want to get my thoughts out there. I'm not some neo-Nazi white supremacist for loving this film, and nobody out there who hates it is an SJW libtard cuck. It's like or whatever buzzwords you want to use that don't mean anything now because they've been used to hell and back because the fucking internet has ruined everything.
Wait a minute. Nuance? No,
No,
I can't do that.
So, is there anything else we want to say before we get into this Blu-ray? I feel like again, like I said, I feel like it is annoying that we just talked about the film, the stuff surrounding the film rather than the content. But I guess that
there's a lot to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about. So I'll say this: go watch Joker. If you've never seen it, even though it's been 5 years, if you've never seen it, go watch it because it is good.
Yeah. I would say also, if you're worried about like the conversation around the movie and just like how annoying it is, the movie really isn't like that. People do kind of like blow it out of proportion. So if that's something that's like keeping you from it, definitely give it a shot.
Yeah, definitely. So I do have it on Blu-ray. I bought it. I think I bought it first when it came out on Blu-ray because, I was a huge fan of it at the time. And I was like, I want to have it on Blu-ray. And yeah, it's the same one I bought all those years ago. It's still in good condition. I believe I have it on digital as well. Like, on my Vudu, I think I took advantage of the, download the code and have it digitally wherever. Yeah. Whatever that means, because, sometimes movie online stores will just like not have your film available anymore. Isn't that
weird?
I guess that's more of a thing with games, on like game stores where they'll just like delete your game if they don't want to sell it anymore, or at least they have the right to do that, which is completely fucked. But again, that's why I started this podcast, physical media, baby.
Ayo.
So I am definitely keeping this Blu-ray. I still really like this film. I still consider it a very good film. Not the greatest film ever made, and maybe not as amazing as when I first watched it. I mean, I didn't even think this was my favorite movie of 2019. We talked about my favorite 2019 movie the last time we were on, The Lighthouse. Yeah, I still consider that vastly better. I fucking love The Lighthouse. But like I said, I still think this is a good film. I recommend people check it out. I recommend maybe even checking it out again. Maybe it's not as good as you remember. Maybe it's better than you remember. Just don't fall for the 2019 shitstorm conversations that were surrounding it, because it's, I don't know, maybe you think it's the worst thing ever. Maybe you think it's the best thing ever. I don't know. But only you as an individual can decide that, not anybody else.
Ditto. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh, thank
you.
It
is definitely something you should check out. It is a good movie. I do have some issues with it, but all in all, I'd say it is a really well-made movie, which is not really something that I feel like I get with a lot of superhero media. So there's that.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing they never made a sequel. Oh, I can't even make the joke. They did make a sequel. Why else would we be doing this episode? It's really funny because I didn't know what to expect with this sequel. I mean, I'm of the opinion that I'm very skeptical of sequels. No matter if they're sequels to movies I love or movies I hate, I'm always going to be skeptical, because I don't know if you've paid attention to the last decade, or even more so, even beyond the last decade. Just film history in general, I don't know if you've noticed, but sometimes sequels are bad. So like,
gosh, the amount of molten takes you're spouting this episode is like,
my point is, I've been hurt so many times that I am automatically skeptical of a sequel to something I like. So
yeah,
I was not interested in seeing a sequel to The Joker because I feel like what made that first movie so special is the fact that it was so unique and it wasn't part of any franchise. And so seeing a sequel, it's like, okay, I'm a little skeptical of that.
But yeah, it almost does kind of just go against what I thought the point of the first movie was.
Now,
because it felt like it was supposed to be like a standalone thing.
Yeah,
that's kind of what they were going for.
I have heard rumors that Todd Phillips didn't want to make it, and that it was, again, rumors. I have no idea, and I don't think he'll ever admit it. Because I don't think filmmakers would ever admit that, where they're just like, oh yeah, I was forced to make this, unless unless very rare situations. But it does feel as though he was kind of forced into making it because Warner Brothers wanted to cash in on the hype of the sequel. Now, a mere 5 years later seems a bit late, but again, whatever. Rumors. The point is, the sequel exists now, and I didn't really know what the reactions were going to be for it. At first the trailers looked kind of cool. I was like, yeah, I could go see that. That's fine. It wasn't until
and then it came out that it was a musical.
Well,
I was like, wow.
Well, I was a little interested because I love weird movies. Especially movies that take advantage of crazy, weird situations. So like a Joker musical, that sounds crazy, but I'm so down for that if done correctly. Put a pin in that. If done correctly. But then it started coming out that people were just like, because like Todd Phillips was going like, oh, it's not a musical, but it is. Like, I don't know. There was like some weird stuff about that. I didn't really pay attention to that because I try not to research movies before I see them. I try to go in as blind as possible.
Same.
But then it started coming out and people weren't liking it. So it's like, okay, clearly this was kind of a dud. And so then I actually watch it, and oh boy.
Dude, I was literally like, oh my gosh. I was so dead inside while watching this movie from front to back. I didn't, you know that thing you're supposed to do whenever you watch a movie where you like, experience emotion?
Yeah, I've done that from time to time. Not this time.
None of that.
Oh yeah. So I was like, because I saw a lot of people hating this film, and I'm just like, oh, is it that bad? Like that gets me interested. My brain is broken. Where like people will just say, oh, this movie is the worst, don't watch it, and that makes me want to watch it even more. Like,
interesting.
I don't know.
Wait, why is that?
I don't know. Something about, because I've seen so many bad movies in my life. I've seen a lot. There's a lot of bad movies I've seen. And so whenever people are just like, oh, this is the worst, I'm just like, oh yeah, prove it. Like I want to be proven that it's the worst thing ever. Like, I don't know. And I guess seeing the worst film ever made is just fascinating to me. But anyway, so like when people are just like, oh, this is awful, it's like, oh, well, now I got to see this because I love a good failure. Twiddles fingers. Ooh. And I think throughout the movie, I was like, okay, yeah, I see what the problem is here. Yeah. My thing with this movie, and is it the worst thing ever? No. But is it good? Absolutely not. My thing is that it is boring and pointless. Keyword there, pointless. I am watching through this movie and I'm thinking a lot, why am I watching this? Because because when you watch sequels, one of the main things you have to be thinking about is, okay, why did the filmmakers make this? Obviously, the number one answer is always going to be money. But sometimes there is an actual story being told. Sometimes there is an interesting aspect that the filmmakers wanted to explore. It's like, okay, beyond the money, why was this film made? And this is a classic example of there was no reason for this to be made. You have no reason to continue the story of Arthur Fleck after the first movie. It is completely pointless. Nothing new is explored. Nothing new is gained. There's just nothing. Like, nothing happens in this movie. It is so boring and pointless that there's nothing.
And even like the first movie, like, had some shades of this sort of thing where it's like, oh, it's a standalone Joker movie. Why would you do a standalone Joker movie when, like, one of the biggest parts about the Joker character is his, like, dichotomy with Batman? But then when I watched it, I was like, oh, okay, no, this is earning its, like, existence. It's actually, like, a good movie that is doing something unique with the character that shows me, like, okay, you can do a cool standalone Joker movie. So that movie earned its own place, where this movie does not do that in the slightest.
No.
It's double the amount of pointlessness with absolutely nothing behind it actually being interesting. It introduced, which is so strange to say, because it introduced so many new things. There's Harley Quinn, and then there's also, like, the courtroom drama, and then it kind of, like, goes into Arkham Asylum a lot and how people are mistreated in there. And, like, so many things happen in this movie, but none of it has any momentum to it.
Yeah.
It's like, when I was watching it, I think one of the biggest problems that it has is just the fact that nothing feels developed.
No.
Like, nothing feels like it's actually taking the time to focus on any of these sprawling ideas. It is just moving from scene to scene, plot beat to plot beat. Oh, he talks to Harley Quinn at Arkham Asylum. Wow, that's cool. Oh, he is talking with all the different Arkham Asylum guards. Oh, that's neat. Oh, wow, they start singing out of nowhere. It's like, and I was okay with the musical aspects of the film. Like, I thought that the idea of it, like you said, could be interesting. But one of the, to me, I think musical sequences in a movie need to have, like, a certain amount of importance to them, because, like, music in of itself is something that makes you feel a bit more than just, like, having two characters talking, you know? It is something where, like, for instance, La La Land, a lot of the songs in that movie are kind of placed in very particular spots in order to kind of give you a bit of insight as to how the characters are feeling in that moment.
Yeah.
This movie, on the other hand, just like, you get one musical number. Oh, Arthur and Harvey love each other. Okay, that's good to know. I mean, I already knew that from the scene before, but okay, that's cool.
You said Arthur and Harvey love each other, and I just thought...
Oh, sorry.
No. It's funny because I just imagined... Because, I mean, Harvey Dent is in this movie.
Yeah.
Which is entirely random, but...
yeah, frat house Harvey Dent and Arthur love each other.
Yeah, exactly. I was expecting Harvey Dent, at one point, I'm like, they're going to have a scene where he, like... They're going to have a scene where he gets, like, a Two-Face moment, or, like, someone's going to call him Two-Face. And I thought that's what the point of the explosion at the end was, when they blow up the courthouse. Like, I thought they were going to, like, have, like, half of his face on fire. And they didn't really do that. It was kind of weird. I'm like, oh, okay. So him being Harvey Dent meant nothing then. I guess that's fine, because, again, in the last movie, you didn't have Bruce Wayne as Batman, but also it's like, come on, dude. Like, do something. But sorry, I just want to
it'd been great.
Oh, what?
If, like, in the courtroom scene, someone asked him a question and he's like, oh, I'm not sure about that question. Here, let me flip a coin to figure out.
That would have been so obnoxious, but I would have laughed so hard when that happened. But yeah, to go back to the musical aspect, I agree. The musical aspect of this movie is it's so lame. My whole spiel with it is that I just found the song numbers themselves so low energy and dull that I'm like, why was this made a musical? Because it felt as though the musical aspect was added last second, as if like they were making the movie and like, oh, what if we made this a musical to make it more quirky? It's like, okay, that's fine, but like you need a reason for it to be a musical. Just having characters sing wasn't that engaging because the singing was fine, but it wasn't like amazing. Even though you have someone like Lady Gaga, who is a good singer. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Lady Gaga, but I will admit she is a good singer. Like, I can't deny that.
Hot take number 5.
Yeah, I'm just on fire, dude. But also just the fact that it's so low energy because, and not to say that like you need dancing or choreography, because I was thinking about this. I'm like thinking like, why is this so low energy? Is it because there's no dancing? Because the characters aren't dancing. They're just kind of standing around and singing, or they're walking and singing, but there's no like, there's no rhythm to it. There's no choreography to it. But it's like, okay, in the movie Little Shop of Horrors, there's not a whole lot of dancing in that, but the musical numbers in that movie are phenomenal. Like there's several songs that had me on the brink of tears from how amazing they were sung.
Really?
Yeah, no, wow. I recently rewatched Little Shop of Horrors, the 80s movie. Fantastic film. I love it so much. But there wasn't a whole lot of dancing of like big musical number where like all these like a million characters on a set dancing. It's like there was not really any of that in that movie. But you still had like amazing puppetry, some really good singing, and you still had like rhythm to the music. There was a feeling as if the characters were happy they were singing, or they were singing for a reason. Like you said, there's a reason these characters are singing. Whereas in this movie, there really is no reason. It's just happenstance that they're singing. Yeah, it's pointless. Again,
and they
adding
even
to the pointlessness.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's adding to the pointlessness of the film.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's like, it makes it even more confusing at the same time, because they also do this thing where, what is her name? I almost called her Harvey again.
Harley Quinn. Harley Dent.
Harley Dent.
Mr. J, I need to flip a coin. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain, Mr. J.
Wow, they need to cast you in the sequel.
Yeah. Put me in the Harley Quinn dress. Don't do that. Sorry. Continue.
Sorry, yeah. No, I was just saying. They also do the weird thing where Harley Quinn and Arthur just like randomly start singing to each other in just like random dialogue scenes, and it was actually kind of hilarious.
Oh yeah,
how every time it felt like a punchline. Like they would reveal some really like intense or really like a potent bit of like exposition. Like Harley at one point's like, "I'm pregnant," and then they just immediately bust into song.
That also,
it's so goofy.
That also adds to the fact that why are they a couple? Because that's my thing. The romance in this movie is awful. I don't buy Joaquin and Gaga as lovers in this movie.
No.
And I don't know if that's the point, but also I don't think this movie is smart enough to have that as being the point. Like I think
I was expecting there to be some kind of reveal, like, oh, like Harley was just manipulating him the whole time, and that's why.
I mean, they kind of had that, I guess. Like, because here's the thing. I was told afterwards that the point of Harley is that she's kind of supposed to be representative of the fans of the first movie. You know, how they're
weird.
obsessive over Joker, how they're just like, oh, you're just like me. And then it's like, no, actually, you live a comfortable life. You could have left the hospital at any time. You're just manipulating him. But then that doesn't go anywhere. Like, yeah, he just is okay with her being herself. It's a really confusing metaphor if that's what they were going for. Because again, I was so bored out of my mind. I didn't even notice any themes in this movie. I was just like, there's really no point to this. But yeah,
that's icing.
Yeah,
you kind of have to have like a cake.
Exactly. Yeah. But again, like, the romance between them is so half-baked because they're pretty much kissing each other the second scene we see them together. And I noticed that. I'm like, no, quite literally, the second scene we see them together, they're kissing. And it's like, oh, where did this come from? This wasn't established. Like, you had a scene of them talking, yes, but you need more than that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that we're seeing a movie in 2024, current year, where we have a romance this rushed, and they expect people not to point that out. It's like, no, everybody's going to point that out. They're going to be like, this does not feel earned.
Yeah. And I am also not a big fan of how many times they reference the first movie.
Yeah.
In this film.
That got obnoxious.
One of the most annoying parts of this, I don't know why this one annoyed me so much, but whenever like Arthur and Harley first meet each other and they like meet in that hallway and she puts the gun up to her head and does the same thing that Zazie Beetz' character does from the first film.
Yeah.
And that was so confusing to me because she never saw anyone do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like that's a classic, classic Jokerism.
Yeah.
Bang. Like,
It did feel weird because then it's just, because it was like one of the first interactions they had as characters. You're just like, who is this character? I know going in that's Harley Quinn, but like, as me just watching the movie for the first time, I don't know who this character is. And I still don't know who this character is by the end because, again, you're telling me it's Harley Quinn. It's like, okay, but who is Harley Quinn? Like, I know who Harley Quinn is as a DC character, but who is she in the context of this movie? Like, I never got that. Like,
she's a plot device.
Yeah, she's obsessed with Joker. Why? Because it's like, okay, that's not good enough. Like, you can't just throw this iconic character into this role and expect us to just be like okay with that. It's like, no, we need more. We need a reason. Like, you need to write a movie is what you need to do.
Oh, but that's hard.
It is hard. I agree.
You have to have creativity.
Yeah.
And like actually care about what you're doing. And it felt like nobody cared.
No.
On set. Like, it felt like nobody wanted to be there.
Yeah. Even Joaquin, who I love Joaquin Phoenix. I think he's a great, great actor. I really do.
Yeah. He's probably my favorite actor. Honestly, I can't think of a single movie where he's done a bad job.
Yeah. I think this might be the
Except
first.
now.
I think, and not even that it's bad. It's just nothing. Like, he doesn't do anything impressive in this role like he did in the first one. Like, in the first one, I'm thinking, oh yeah, he really did earn that best actor nom. Here, he's incredibly on autopilot. The best actor in this movie was the guy who played Gary in that scene in the courtroom scene. That is the only actor I gave a shit about in this movie. I'm like, holy shit, he's giving it his all.
Yeah.
He's really selling this scene. And then he's out of the movie after that. It's like, wow, what a waste of time. Like, but that's the thing is, like, he had one scene and he was the best actor in the movie. I love the other actors. I love Brendan Gleeson. I love Steve Coogan. I love Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga? Oh, you love Lady Gaga?
I mean, look. from time to time, I'll listen to Telephone or Bad Romance or Paparazzi or Just Dance. Okay, I listen to a lot of her early stuff, okay? It's good. I'm nostalgic for that late 2000s, early 2010s pop. I don't like any of her newer stuff. I don't know. Does she have new stuff? Like, what does she do? Is she still singing?
Shallows? I have
what
no
is
idea.
Shallows?
That's like the song from A Star Is Born.
Oh yeah, but isn't that like what, 6 years old now?
Yeah.
So is it really new?
Yeah.
I don't know. I still think I still find it weird that Lady Gaga doesn't dress in like really weird dresses anymore. Like, remember when that was her thing, when she just dressed in,
like the meat dress?
Yeah, the meat dress. She just had really obnoxious clothing. Like, that's what I remember her being. And now she just dresses in like normal looking dresses, or she just looks like a normal person. It's like, oh, okay. I guess that era is over with. I mean, it's been over for over a decade at this point, but I don't know. I'm still in that era of that's who Lady Gaga was.
Yeah.
But whatever. Anyway, point is, yeah, I like her early music, and I guess she's not a bad actress. Like, she was not unconvincing as Harley Quinn. She just was nothing as Harley Quinn because the writing was nothing for Harley Quinn. Like, there was nothing to this character, and she didn't salvage anything. She was just kind of a waste of time.
That's a perfect thing to put on the back of the Blu-ray for this movie.
A waste of time.
A waste of time.
Yeah. No, and you know what? That's the thing with this movie. I appreciate that the conversations around it aren't as obnoxious as the first movie. I think we can all be in agreement. Like, whether we like the first movie or not, this movie is hollow. And I think, it's just obnoxious because of that. The actual movie is obnoxious, not the conversation around it. I think we can all agree it's obnoxious how pointless and droll this movie is. It is so dull, this movie.
Yeah. Can we talk about how there's only like 2 locations in the entire movie too?
Yeah. And you really feel that. Because you either have the prison or the courtroom. And again, I'm not against like singular location films. I love 12 Angry Men. I love The Lighthouse, but those movies take advantage of that, whereas this doesn't. And so, yeah, seeing these 2 locations doesn't really do anything. It's just, it feels very samey. And it feels like, nothing progresses. Like, I was halfway through the movie where I was like checking my watch being like, where are we going with this story?
Dang, halfway? That's when you started?
Not really. I guess like I don't know. I was just kind of I wasn't dreading my time watching this movie, but as it started to go along, that's when I was like, all right, because it became so repetitive,
Yeah.
Like, it was a gradual annoyance, and then by the end, I was like, not angry, but I was like bitter in that I was like, this is pointless. Like, those are the words I would use to describe this movie: empty, pointless, hollow. Just nothing happens that's worth any amount of energy. I mean, I guess here's my thing. The opening, I don't know if you remember the opening with that animation,
the cartoon, 2D animation
part. That is one of the best false advertising openings I've ever seen to a film, because it's like, so it starts off with this cartoon and you think, is this part of the movie? But then you start to realize, oh, it is part of the movie. Oh, that's interesting. That's really cool. It's ultimately pointless. You could cut it out of the movie and nothing changes. But it was great at making you think that the movie was capable of anything. Because it's like, oh, we're about to see a movie musical about the Joker, and it starts off with this wacky cartoon. It's like, holy shit, this is going to be awesome. And then it didn't take advantage of that tone. It just was completely straight-faced and completely did nothing with anything it was given. It, like we said, the musical numbers were pointless. That animation, again, was pointless. It was not reflective of the tone at all.
Yeah, it felt like I ate an entire bag of saltine crackers after I was done with it. It's just nothing really to latch onto,
No.
nothing to think about, and definitely no satisfying moments.
Oh
Like
no.
the first film has very distinct like satisfying moments. Like
Yes.
the scene in Arthur's apartment where he kills Ronald? No, it's not
Randall.
Randall, yeah, not Ronald.
He kills Ronald
Where he
McDonald.
kills Ronald McDonald.
I'm the only crazy clown in this part.
Yeah. Randall. That was a pretty satisfying moment because that was the first time where it really like showed how unhinged
Yeah.
the movie was and how unhinged like Arthur was.
Yeah, that he's capable of anything. Like the first murders were not an accident. He's capable of doing more damage.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And then like we were just saying with the climax of the first movie, one of the most incredibly satisfying climaxes to a film I've seen. Like it's so well done. This movie, there's nothing. Like there's an explosion at a courtroom. I should be like on the edge of my seat watching this courtroom drama. First of all, I'm not. I'm incredibly bored whenever they're in the courtroom because they're just recapping what happened in the first movie.
Oh my gosh!
And occasionally Joker laughs or says something that he shouldn't in a courtroom. It's again nothing new is being established. It's like, oh, we're bringing back this character to talk about stuff from the first movie. It's like, yeah, guess what? I saw the first movie. Can we move on to something else, please?
Yeah. Not even that too. Like the amount of times they flash back, like the editing in this movie is really bad.
Yeah.
The editing in the first movie wasn't great either. Like I remember that's the moment wherever he enters like Zazie Beetz' apartment. And the editing in that scene was really obnoxious.
Yeah, you remember because it shows that what you already know in that Zazie Beetz was not actually at those times when he was talking to her throughout the movie.
The second movie feels like that scene the entire time.
Yeah, there's a lot of cuts, like flashes to the first movie, and it's like, yeah, movie, I get it. Yeah. I'm fine with it in the first one because it's like, okay, yeah, I can figure it out without you having to flash back to those things. But like it doesn't ruin the reveal. Whereas here, it completely ruins the pacing because it's just like, okay, you're just flashing to random bits from the first movie. Yeah. Again, it feels more so to remind you, hey, the first movie exists. It's like, yeah, guess what? I already liked the first movie. I hate when sequels do that where they're just like, remember it? It's like, yes.
Like the Matrix Resurrections.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Matrix Resurrections, man. Yeah. I'll give this. I'll give
tumor back.
I'll give Joker 2 this. It was not as bad as Matrix Resurrections.
Oh, wow! So you really liked it then, huh?
Yeah, setting the
Matrix Resurrections is like it's kind of groundbreaking.
That's right. Yeah, it was bad on purpose. So that makes it good. Just like this movie. This movie was bad on purpose, you guys. So it's actually good.
Oh, I love how you can't even make that argument for this one.
I know because it's like, yeah, because you know what? I haven't seen anybody defend this movie. I haven't seen anybody be like, no, it's supposed to be bad on purpose. It's like, first of all, there's one of the most brain dead takes you can have on a film, but also, yeah, nobody's going even that far for this movie where they're just like, no, it's supposed to be bad. It's like, no, it's just bad.
Yeah. What did you think of there was one scene that really stood out to me. The scene where Arthur kind of does reveals the big twist of the fact that the Joker character is like all an act. And that's very, very odd from like a narrative standpoint. But then there was also this flashback in that sequence where it flashes back to him in the bathroom from the first movie.
Yeah.
And it shows like what happened after that big like song and dance that he does in the bathroom.
Yeah, as if he's washing off the makeup to be like the Joker is over. I guess that's what it was going for.
I kind of took it as like, oh, are you trying to say that like, is this how you're communicating that like it's all an act? If that's the case though, That is one of the dumbest ways to tell that, because it's implying that he went into this bathroom all alone and did like a dance in there to kind of perpetuate this act, but to who? Like,
Yeah.
it's, I don't know if that's what they were saying. It definitely could. I definitely could be like misinterpreting it,
So,
but
I
that
mean,
was very
so
strange.
this is where like I've been seeing where people are saying this movie's kind of insulting to fans of the first movie, where it's saying like, oh, it was all an act and anybody who idolizes me, was in the wrong. Where it's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, that yeah, that part was weird to me because like there were people who are just like kind of shocked that, oh, Arthur's not actually the Joker. Like the Joker's not real. Like we trusted you, man. It's like,
Hmm.
uh, first of all, I don't think people would care at that point. And even
Yeah.
then, the movie still shows that people are still going to do horrible atrocities in the name of the Joker, whether he believes that or not, because they blow up the courthouse. So it's like,
Yeah. It
so,
doesn't even do
yeah, it
anything.
doesn't matter. But that's the thing is like, okay, like yeah, it's just really weird that they try to make it a big reveal like, oh, he's not actually the Joker, like he feels
Yeah.
regret, or yeah, they're trying to make it seem like a big reveal that he feels bad and that he doesn't want to be the Joker anymore. And it's just like, okay,
Hmm.
first of all, people would still believe in the Joker. Like we said,
Yeah.
they still blow up the courthouse. There is still going to be followers. Yeah, there's obviously going to be followers like totally heartbroken hearing him say that. But also, I don't believe that people would be, to the extent that they would be, like everybody would be shocked by that, or
Yeah.
that, yeah, that like Harley would be shocked by that. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was communicated very strangely. This
Yeah.
reveal, that it's even a reveal to begin with, is just bizarre
Hmm.
to me.
It's something that I could see being fleshed out pretty well, where like in a well written movie,
Go
um,
on.
where the entire thing is kind of leading up to it, the fact that like Arthur is feeling very guilty about all of the horrible things that are happening in his name. Um, I could see that kind of reveal sort of being satisfying in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but the film doesn't do the due diligence of
No.
actually building up to that reveal. Like there's so many scenes in this movie where Arthur is just like ecstatic about his status as the Joker, and he's like super happy about it, and there's literally scenes where they're like stomping on tables and singing with everyone in Arkham Asylum and all that. And then they kind of tried to show that he was sick and tired of the act whenever that Arkham Asylum guy got killed in his cell the night before he reveals everything.
I
But
guess.
like that was, first of all, I don't care about that character.
Yeah, we don't know this
Um
character.
yeah. And second of all, it's just I don't buy that that character of Arthur would get to that point simply from something like that.
Yeah.
I think he's too deep in
Yeah.
at
See,
this point.
see, my thing is that I don't want to see this character feel guilt,
Yeah.
because that's not the Joker, and that's not the character we got in the first movie. Maybe towards the beginning when he's sympathetic. Once he
Yeah.
shoots Murray in the head on live television, it's completely over for that character. He should have zero remorse for what he did. He is
Yeah.
a psychopath, and he should be doubling down on that. But yeah, they try to make him more sympathetic, and I don't like the sympathy in this movie as opposed to the last movie, because at least with the last movie, it's a spiral downward, whereas
Mhm.
here, again, there's no point. So like, what is even happening? Like, why are we feeling guilt? It
Mhm.
just doesn't feel like the kind of ending this character should have. Um, Speaking of ending, this character has. So the very end of the movie, he's
Yeah.
no longer with Harley Quinn because I don't know, she doesn't think he's cool anymore. I guess. I don't know, but that's not explained very well. So then he's like, he has like a visitor, and one of the other patients comes up to him, is just like, hey, can I tell you a quick joke? And he's like, and the joke goes something like, oh, psychopath, like a psychopath walks up to a clown, yada yada yada, and then the punchline is, you get what you fucking deserve. And then he totally
just so insulting.
Shivs Arthur right in the stomach like several times, like with a fucking knife, and just like stabs the shit out of his stomach, ultimately killing him. Which is what I meant when I said, like, yeah, we're never going to see this Joker fight Batman. Yeah, it completely ruins the you get what you fucking deserve. I mean, it doesn't ruin it, because I still feel like it works in the first movie, but it feels like they don't understand why that line was so impactful in that first movie. Like here, it feels like they're trying to use it for irony, because it's like, oh, now it's being used against Arthur. But it's like, okay, it's being used against Arthur by a character we don't know. Like, who is this guy?
Yeah, okay. Why don't we rewrite the movie real quick? Murray Franklin rises from the grave, and he visits Arthur. He's the visitor, the mysterious visitor that we don't even see. Yeah. And then he shivs Arthur at the end. What do we think?
I'll do you one better. Arthur is about to get stabbed by the prisoner, and then a portal opens up, and Ezra Miller's Flash comes out and says, hey, I want to talk to you about the Legion of Doom. Come join me. And Arthur Fleck goes, intriguing. Ezra Miller Flash was a bad guy the whole time, and this sets up a Legion of Doom movie.
Oh, dude.
So now they can make more Joaquin Phoenix Joker movies, except they're not about him. He's just a side character in like some villain multiverse story now.
Yeah, and he's just like a socially awkward, like, neat.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about that, because of just like, okay, they killed off this character, so we're never gonna see him again. But also I'm thinking, like, would they bring him back for like some multiverse shenanigans? Because like, you know, I was really
so funny.
Well, I was really, because I've said before, that's what I was expecting from the Flash, was this complete and utter nonsensical multiverse story. And it was kind of that for 30 seconds when they're in like the time zone and they can see like into other DC films. They kind of did that, but then they didn't do anything with that. They just kind of showed it, and that was it. But yeah, no, I really, give me these kinds of movies. I will write something really funny, because I will write something that will appease the Funko Pop obsessing nerds out there. Yeah. But I would get enjoyment out of it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. We get every single Joker together in one movie.
Listen, it would be horrible. But they should do it anyway, because what do they have left to lose? Like, that's why what I was expecting from The Flash. I'm just like, come on. This movie's not going to be good. Your main actor is a psychopath, IRL. You have nothing left to lose. Just go all out and make it nonsense. And they didn't. They tried to make it as legitimate as possible, but also baby in the microwave.
And Nicolas Cage Superman.
For good measure. But yeah, no, this was a really lame ending for this character. It's just like, wow, you had something so great with the first Joker, and now you have this movie. It's like, it's not even the fact that he dies. It's like, okay, I'm fine with him dying, but the way he dies is not satisfying. Yeah, like we said, they just use the you get what you fucking deserve. It's like, it does not have the same effect.
And it all stems from, like, the whole reason the prisoner did that, seemingly, is because Arthur revealed that, like, the Joker is all an act.
I guess.
And I'm assuming that's. I don't know why else he would do that.
Again, the movie communicates that so poorly that I have no idea if that's what it was going for.
That's true, actually. Yeah, it could just be something completely different. I might be giving old Phillips maybe a little too much credit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of want to mention the musical numbers again.
Sure.
Just because I hear a lot of people talking about how, like, oh yeah, no, one of the things about the movie that was decent was that, like, the visuals and the musical numbers were actually pretty good. And, like,
they really weren't.
Kind of, but they weren't really.
Well, so here's my thing. When I was watching the movie, by the end, like, before I left the theater, I was like thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of a 4 out of 10, where it's like, it's not good, but there are aspects to it that are a little cool, like the musical numbers and the visuals. But as I was driving home, I'm thinking, okay, not really. Like, I'm not humming any of the tunes, and the visuals didn't go that hard, if I'm being honest. Like, there's some cool sets, like the rooftop set where they're dancing in front of the Hotel Arkham sign.
Yeah, that was probably the best one.
But, like,
honestly,
yeah, but like that didn't really have a point. It didn't really look that interesting. It's like, okay, this is kind of cool, but it's not really cool.
It just looked like a knockoff set from a West Side Story.
Yeah, or like a knockoff like La La Land set. Like, it's completely uninteresting. And like we said, the musical numbers are so low energy and so dull that as I was thinking about it, I'm like, no, this is not a 4 out of 10. This is closer to a 3, because a 4 out of 10 to me is still bad, but there are like elements out there. There are elements in there that are just so interesting to me that like leave me thinking about them. That's what I gave all 3 of the Alien films from this century that I talked about on the Alien episode, that being Prometheus, Covenant, and Romulus. All 3 movies.
Prometheus.
Yeah, I didn't really like Prometheus on second watch. But I talk about it in the episode. Anyway, my point is, I didn't like those movies, but they had elements I did really like. And so that's the thing with 4 out of 10s for me, is that I'm thinking, oh yeah, there's things I'll be remembering from time to time, but the overall product I'm not a fan of. But with Joker 2, no. Like I said, there was no musical number that caught my eye. There was no visual that was as impressive as the first movie's cinematography. Like, that's the thing. The music in the first movie is one of my favorite superhero movie scores. It's so good. And then here...
Yeah, all the deep, like, guttural sort of stringed instruments.
Oh, they're fantastic.
That composer uses.
Yeah. The theme...
really adds to the atmosphere.
Yeah, the Joker theme I've used in several YouTube poops, because I thought...
Really?
Yeah, because I just thought it was, like, it sounded nice, and it added to, like, jokes I made involving, like... I think both jokes I made were about like Doug Walker and like the Joker theme, because I mean, Melvin Brother, the Joker. But anyway, yeah. So the second movie, the music is just, it's just an afterthought, which is a shame.
Yeah, it feels more orchestral. This time.
And not, and it doesn't stand out as much. And then you have the actual song numbers, and again, they don't stand out as much. So yeah, that's why it's closer to a 3 out of 10 for me, because it's like, oh yeah, there's really nothing. I guess there's the animated bit at the beginning, but again, that's something you could cut out of the movie. Yeah, the first 2 minutes, you could cut that out of the movie and nothing changes. The story does not change at all. And even then, it's just an animation of the events of the first movie, something I've already seen. Well, not even that. It's just no, because it's just like him and his shadow. For whatever reason, Again, it's a cartoon. It doesn't have to make sense. It's like, it's just cartoon violence for the sake of cartoon violence. But again, cut it out of the movie, nothing changes. So it's like, all right, this doesn't need to be needed.
Yeah,
I only like it because it's different.
It was like the only thing that got like an eyebrow raise out of me.
Yeah,
but even still, like you said, it's so. It's just pointless.
Yeah,
just like a lot of other things.
But that's
I will say I do like the way the movie is shot for the most part.
yeah. It's fine.
I do think I can't remember certain, like there was one shot after the courtroom gets blown up by the car bomb.
Oh, it was like a one take.
Yeah, the one take was actually like kind of impressive how he like goes into the car and then like
gets chased. Oh,
gets chased and all that. That was pretty cool.
I want to talk about that because when he's running down the streets of New York,
oh yeah, bucket of blood.
He passes by a theater that says a bucket of blood. Oh, dude, I was like, holy fucking shit! I was so excited. Because I mean, for those who don't know, the last episode we talked about a couple of Corman films, Roger Corman, the late great Roger Corman, and one of the films we talked about was A Bucket of Blood. I was like, holy shit!
I didn't realize it was that quick of a turnaround.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was like last episode.
Last episode was A Bucket of Blood and The Terror, 2 Roger Corman films, and I was like, holy shit! Like this connects. Joker 2 connects to A Bucket of Blood, and I did not do that on purpose. It was entirely happenstance. I was like, holy shit, they actually referenced A Bucket of Blood. I was really excited. It was the one time I got genuinely excited in the movie. I was just, holy shit, I was so excited. And then I went back to watching the movie. I'm like, oh, this is still lame. Like that's what got me excited was a reference to a different movie that has nothing to do with this movie. Like, I'm sure it was entirely random. They're just like, oh, what's a movie we can advertise at a theater in the background of this movie? It's like A Bucket of Blood. It's like, okay. Again,
yeah, but you've seen The Bucket of Blood? Does it like tie into the movie at all?
No, or it literally has. So A Bucket of Blood is about, I guess because it's about a loner character. So the movie is about a guy named Walter Paisley. Walter Paisley is born. He is a loser working at a coffee shop that has a bunch of pretentious artists hanging out there, and he wants to be a pretentious artist. So he goes home, accidentally kills his landlady's cat, and then to hide the evidence covers the cat in clay, and then passes off the cat covered in clay as his work of art. It's like it's like his sculpture. And so then he continues to make sculptures, by which I mean he kills people and covers them in clay and makes them his sculptures. I highly recommend it. It's really good. It's basically the what was Little Shop. You know, it was kind of the inspiration for Little Shop, because then Roger Corman made Little Shop the year after the original Little Shop of Horrors, the one that is based off of so then that became a Broadway show. I'm getting off topic. I'm sorry. We explained this in the previous episode.
Dude, we have to talk about something we enjoy, or else I feel like we're both going to have like a depressive episode.
That is very true. Yes. But yeah, so controversial opinion, Bucket of Blood, great film, better than Joker 2. But I had to mention that the fact that it references A Bucket of Blood. I'm like, the planning on this, I did not plan this. The fact that we did Bucket of Blood last episode and then Joker 2 this time, it's like that was just completely on accident. So
you have better world building than DC.
I really do. Yeah, the Too Many Movies,
like the extended universe.
The Too Many Movies lore is wild. So, I don't really have that much else to say about Joker 2. I don't know. Do you have anything else?
I guess I'll just say it's honestly not, like, I don't think the hate is undeserved.
Yeah, no. The hate for this movie is absolutely deserved. That's why I was saying I think the conversations around this film are way less obnoxious, because I think we can all agree this is just a steaming turd. I will say this, it's not the worst thing ever. It is just an empty experience to me. It is nothing. Yeah. It is a nothing movie. It's a
nothing burger.
Yeah, it's pointless. Like, it's not the worst thing ever. I don't want to say it's like, a sin against nature. It's like, no, it's just a pointless film. And I think we
It's
can
not
all...
Skinamarink or anything like that.
Yeah, no. It's not the worst thing ever. Exactly. No, real talk.
It's
Skinamarink actually gave me something interesting to think about,
Mhm.
to talk about. Like, you know what? I have not stopped thinking about Skinamarink. Like, okay,
Oh.
like I still don't like it, but
Yeah.
there are aspects to it that I think about from time to time where I'm like, that was really cool. That was really interesting.
Mhm.
I'm not going to feel that with Joker 2. Like it is, like I said, like I've been saying, I want to really emphasize how completely empty and devoid of anything interesting this movie contains. It is so pointless.
Yeah. Yeah, and things just kind of happen
Yeah.
out of nowhere in this movie too. Like there's a scene where the first time Arthur gets thrown into solitary, and then sorry, I keep saying Harvey. God, um, Harley Quinn just appears out of nowhere in there,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, how'd you get in here?" And she's like, "Oh, the guards let me in." It's like, what? What do you mean? And I was thinking like, oh, this is obviously a dream sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no way that this is actually happening right now. But then like that scene has consequences later on in the movie
That's right.
with like her being pregnant. And so it's like, what the crap?
That's right. He fucks Harley Quinn in the jail
Yeah.
cell. And all I thought after it happened was, well, that just happened.
Yes, things like that. Just like there's so many little things like that that just contribute to this film feeling so aimless.
Oh, aimless. Yeah, very much so. Just have any word and put the word less next to it, and that describes this movie.
Yeah.
Because it's a lesser experience.
A less, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
An entire less.
Yeah. So, I'm definitely not adding this to the collection. I really don't care for it. I don't want it on Blu-ray or 4K or whatever. There's no reason to ever watch it again in general. Like I really like, I feel like from time to time I'll revisit bad movies just to be like, was this as bad as I thought it was? On maybe 5 years down the line I'll watch this again, but I really can't imagine ever watching it again out of any for any reason. Like there's just nothing to it. It's just completely pointless. So I'm not adding it to the collection. I'm fine with just having the first Joker movie just being on its own, being its own thing. I will watch that forever and never think about this movie again.
Good for you.
Melvin, Brother of the Joker was more worth my time than Joker 2.
Melvin Brother, what is that?
Oh, you don't know? Oh,
no.
So my profile picture right now on Discord. So, a little Doug history. Oh, I love introducing people to some Doug history. So,
oh, please do.
We all know the nostalgia critic, the God amongst men, Doug Walker. Years ago, like early on in like the nostalgia critics popularity on YouTube, I want to say maybe like it had to have been like 2008, 2009 even. He made a video called Melvin, Brother of the Joker, where he made it's a skit about, well, Melvin, brother of the Joker from The Dark Knight. Because, The Dark Knight was kind of the biggest thing ever in the late 2000s. I don't know if you know that. So
wow. I had no idea.
Doug took it upon himself to make a skit about Melvin, brother of the Joker. And the joke is, oh, I'm the brother of the Joker. I'm trying to be cool, but I'm not. And it's just 8.5 minutes of Doug riffing as this Joker-like character. He's like, hello, I'm Melvin, the brother of the Joker. I'm cool. I want to talk about ray guns right now and how evil I am. And, occasionally like he'll have his mother, played by Doug again as the mother, just be like, Melvin, what are you doing? Why don't you take care of me? And it's just 8.5 minutes of him just improving this completely original character, original in quotation marks. And for years, it was seen as Doug Walker's worst video. Now, I watched it again. It is no doubt cringy because, again, it's him trying to do his Heath Ledger Joker impression and just passing it off as like, oh, I'm the brother of the Joker, Melvin. It's like...
I'm sure he's really hamming it up, too.
Oh, it is incredibly cringy.
Classic Doug Walker.
Yeah. But... when did this video come out? Like, again, like 2008, 2009. It has been 15 years since that video came out. It is not his worst video. It is not that cringy. I mean, it is cringy, but it is charmingly cringy now.
Is it better than Pink Floyd's The Wall video?
Oh, absolutely. Because his Pink Floyd's The Wall video is, I would make the argument, it is his worst video. Like, I've already gone over it when I talked about The Wall on this podcast, but like, that is one of his biggest blunders. But I will defend Melvin, brother of the Joker, as being so anti-comedy that it's brilliant. Okay, it is so stupid, but it's funny. Like, it's so not funny that it's funny. Like, it's not. It really is just inoffensive. It's like, some people look at Doug Walker's comedy or his content, and they're just like, oh, this is the worst thing on YouTube. It's like, no, it's not. It's really not. Like, there's a lot of bad content on YouTube. Doug Walker is nowhere near the worst of it. Look, I always say this. Yeah. If Doug Walker was the worst channel on YouTube, we would be so privileged to be living in that universe. I wish he was the worst. He was making the worst content on YouTube. I really do.
At least he's not a kick streamer.
I know, exactly.
He's got that going for him.
Yeah, I would sooner rather his cringe be posted and that be the worst than some of the shit I've seen posted on this fucking hell site. Like, so
like BenEleven. Gosh, I hate that guy.
Yeah, what's up with that dude, huh? So,
gosh, he's so annoying. Over edits everything. Like, bro.
I realized. Did you? I don't know if you said if you were gonna keep either movie. Actually, I don't remember what you said about your physical collection in the last episode you were on.
Oh yeah, sorry. No, I don't really have a physical collection. I don't know if that's like sacrilegious.
No.
On this cast?
No. You are not the only person who doesn't have a physical collection that's been on this podcast. Trust me. Whew. If anything, it's more rare that somebody else comes on and they have something as big as mine. So,
well, maybe the second Joker movie will inspire me to start.
So you're
think it'll be the first thing I get on Blu-ray.
The second Joker movie, yeah. There's got to be somebody out there whose first movie into their collection is Joker 2. That, statistically speaking, that has to be somebody.
I don't want to think about that.
Listen, my collection technically started with Thomas and the Magic Railroad.
Well, that's actually kind of sick.
It's kind of fucking sick, dude. That's fucking sick, dude. That's awesome.
That's sick, bro.
It's fucking sick, bro. Yeah. I mean, if we want to be technical, my collection first started with Captain America: The First Avenger on DVD.
Oh, nice.
And also X-Men Origins Wolverine on DVD.
Oh, that's nice.
But those don't exist in my collection anymore, so... I know. I recently rediscovered my Captain
What, did you
America.
like take them outside and like burn them to a crisp or something?
I should have.
Or at least X-Men Origins?
I should have with X-Men Origins, because that movie's fucking doo-doo. No, but fucking First Avenger, I found that DVD, and I was so excited because I really loved that movie when I first watched it, and I still love it. I think it's one of my favorite MCU films.
Oh, nice.
But I watched it on DVD, and it started glitching like shit, and I was like, "Oh, it's skipping." No, dude, I was so sad. I was like, you know that picture of that black guy holding up the gun and he's crying? That's what I felt like having to get rid of the fucking DVD. I was so sad. I was like, oh,
yeah.
Because again, like I had so many memories with that DVD, and yeah, It did.
Oh.
It was part of the genesis of my collection, so
Mm-hmm.
it was really, really depressing. But
sorry to hear about that.
you know what? It happens. With physical media, that's one of the things. Is like sometimes things don't last forever. So,
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I had that experience with the Tom and Jerry Nutcracker movie. So
you had to get rid of the DVD.
Yeah, it was freezing. Like really bad.
I know. Isn't that the worst with DVDs? Because like I remember having this conversation with my dad years ago. How like, you know, how DVDs are kind of a great invention because if taken care of properly, they can last forever. You know, VHS tapes degrade over time. That's just a fact. Like that's a fact I've, you know, even though I've made VHS tapes a part of this podcast, I know one day I'm going to have to get rid of them. But for the fact that I can use them now, that's still sweet. But like DVDs, again, when taken care of properly, could theoretically last forever. Same thing with Blu-rays, even more so with Blu-rays and 4Ks. Like those are more scratch resistant than DVDs.
Right.
But when you don't take care of them, and they start freezing, it's the worst because you can't do anything. Like you can clean them kind of, but yeah, once they're broken, like they're broken forever. Yeah, that's fucking it's the worst. That's the thing with physical media. Look, as much as I love collecting physical media, they have so many problems that you don't get with streaming. But streaming also has problems. There's always going to be pros and cons when it comes to, you know, getting your movies.
Yeah, at least you see more than like what, 2 pixels on the screen whenever you're watching on physical media.
Yeah. So look, no matter how many issues come with physical media, I will always cherish the movies I have physically. So
yeah,
like Joker.
That's respectable. Yeah, I'd probably say I would probably get Joker on Blu-ray if I did have a collection, because not only do I think it's just like a really good movie, but I think it's a good like thing to have on a shelf.
Yeah.
Just in case, like it's a good movie to put on for people. Like it's a good entry-level drama movie.
That's exactly how I saw it and why I bought it on Blu-ray initially. Like it was something special, and it still is something special. No matter how bad the sequel was, it was bad, but I still love that first movie. So
yeah,
my voice is starting to go, so I think it's high time we get out of here. But Ben, before we do, why don't you shout out your stuff, dude? Where can people find you?
Oh, well, thank you for that, Hal. BenEleven is the name of the channel. That's BenEleven, the 2 words, Ben and 11. Every time I tell people about the name, they usually search like Ben and then the number 11.
Oh.
I got to work on my search analytics to.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Up. Every time I've thought BenEleven, I've just been like, yeah, both words, BenEleven. So, but yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, it's a little thing, but yeah, you can go check out my stuff there. I usually do like mix between movie reviews as well as just like general commentary videos. Like I made a video about the weird like phenomenon I've noticed with people not liking La La Land because it's sad, and I actually really like how that video turned out. So if you want to start somewhere, check that one out.
Yeah, that was a really good video. And I'm not just saying that because you're my friend. Like I genuinely was like, no, this is actually a really interesting aspect. I didn't even think about this, but it was really cool to see.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, did you like the story with my mom?
Yeah, how she's just like, oh, this is awful because it's sad. It's just like, yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah. So, no, great video.
Thank you.
And you're also on Letterboxd?
Oh, yeah. Letterboxd, BenEleven. That sort of thing you could just like find if you find my channel. It's just like in the description anywhere.
Yeah. All your links will be in the description.
I'm also followed by Citizen Hal, so you could find me there by looking at the follow list. Yeah, those comments really mean things on my reviews.
That's true. I've called you like 7 different slurs just today.
Wow, 7. Last time I checked, it was 6. You've done one during this cast.
During the recording, I was just like, let's see, what have I not called him yet? F A.
Oh no. Yeah, Letterboxd. Thank you so much for having me on this. This was nice to come full circle and kind of relive the glory days of when we collabed together.
Yeah.
And I think it was a really good discussion.
Yeah, and I'm glad we had more interesting things to say than just to be all reactionary and extreme. You know, I think we were very fair with these movies.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think so.
Again, it was nice to revisit it because it's been 4 years since I last watched it. So this was a good excuse to finally rewatch it and come to the conclusion that, yes, I like it. And the second movie, and not so much. But it happens.
It was a nice mix.
Yeah.
I like how we had one movie that we really liked, and then one movie that is a steaming turd, as you said so eloquently.
Yeah. I am known for my eloquentness. Is that a word? Eloquentness?
Eloquence?
Eloquence. That's probably what it is. Professional podcast, folks.
Watch out, Joe Rogan. I'm coming for
you. Well, I'd say that does it, dude. I'm tired. I need food. I think my mommy got me Wendy's. She got me the Krabby Patty meal from Wendy's, so I get to go try that.
Let's go.
Yeah, dude. Fuck yeah.
I hope
dude.
you like the toy.
I hope so too. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Stay Jokerfied.
Bye-bye.